Welcome to this explainer. Have you ever actually stopped to wonder how an infinite, totally limitless creator connects with our finite, chaotic, everyday lives? I mean, does the divine ever just feel a bit too distant? Well, today we are going to trace a truly fascinating intellectual journey that bridges that exact gap. We're diving into a thought-provoking lecture by Islamic scholar Mustafa İslamoğlu to unpack a really profound theological framework. And what's so captivating about this material is how it connects the grand, infinite nature of divine revelation all the way down to the nitty-gritty of our everyday human actions. So here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering Section 1, Revelation and Divine Closeness. Section 2, Asma, the Divine Manifestation Veil. Section 3, The True Meaning of 99 Names. Section 4, Worship, Prayer, and Gaza. And finally, Section 5, Balanced Respect for the Prophet. Let's get right into it.
Section 1, Revelation and Divine Closeness, the encounter in Surah An-Najm.
Let's start with the macro perspective, the absolute highest level of divine interaction. The lecture anchors itself in the prophet's profound encounter with the angel of revelation, which is vividly described in Surah An-Najm. Now, to understand the sheer intimacy of this moment, we have to look at the specific Arabic idiom used here, qaba qawsayn, which literally translates to two bow lengths. Historically, when two rival tribes wanted to forge an unbreakable peace, the two leaders would physically bring their bows together and fire a single arrow. This meant absolute unity. The speaker beautifully uses this idiom to illustrate just how incredibly close the prophet was to the source of revelation. I mean, the imagery here means there was absolutely zero distance, just a perfect, unfiltered connection between the divine message and the human receiver.
Section 2, Esma, the Divine Manifestation Veil, and how God interacts with the universe.
But okay, that idea of a perfect, close connection raises a really profound, almost paradoxical philosophical question. How exactly does an infinite, limitless God interact with a finite, limited universe without utterly destroying it? Think about trying to stare directly at the sun. You can't do it, right? It's blinding, it damages your eyes. Similarly, the speaker explains that if creation were to come into direct, unfiltered contact with God's pure essence, the overwhelming magnitude of it would literally burn creation to a crisp. We simply couldn't handle the raw reality of it. So, because of that, God interacts with us through a protective sieve, or kind of like an atmosphere. This atmosphere consists of his names and attributes, known in Islamic theology as Asma. Through this veil, creation safely receives his reflection, his mercy, and his guidance, without being consumed by his raw essence.
And that brings us to a brilliant aphorism from the lecture. To see is to limit. Think about human vision for a second. In order for our eyes to focus on an object, whether it's an apple or a giant mountain, that object has to have edges. It must have defined boundaries. Our entire human experience is built on comprehending things that start somewhere and end somewhere else. Because human vision, and really human intellect by extension, requires these boundaries to function, it is physically and philosophically impossible for us to visually comprehend an infinite, completely limitless God. The speaker then expands on this limitation with another super powerful thought. Whoever tries to know everything knows nothing. You know, we often see this modern arrogance in human intellect today, where we kind of feel we can decode and master the entire universe, but attempting to grasp the absolute entirety of the divine, it's a totally futile endeavor. Claiming to see or comprehend everything is a massive overstep of our human boundaries. Accepting our finite nature isn't a weakness. Actually, scratch that, it's a deeply liberating theological stance. It frees us from the impossible burden of trying to box in the infinite.
So, if we can't grasp the whole shebang, what do? Well, we understand God through the specific reflections of his names. The lecture uses this really fascinating example of a doctor to explain it. Imagine an eye doctor. This doctor marvels at the Creator not by trying to comprehend the entire cosmos all at once, but through the intricate, hyper-focused science of human vision. By studying the microscopic wonder of the cornea, the stunning complexity of the optic nerve, and how light translates into images in the brain, the doctor taps into the specific divine attributes of the Creator. We learn about the infinite through the highly specific, focused pursuit of knowledge. It's like finding the universe in a single drop of water.
Section 3, The True Meaning of 99 Names, moving beyond rote memorization. This brings us to an absolutely crucial question regarding the 99 names of God, the Esma-ul Husna. Is merely memorizing 99 words the magical key to heaven? The speaker firmly challenges this very common, almost transactional mentality found in some communities. He argues passionately against treating these profound names as just a simple checklist. Just think about the immense suffering, the trials, and the heavy prices that early prophets and believers endured for their faith. Did they really go through all of that heartbreak and struggle just so later generations could recite a list of words to guarantee paradise? No way. The answer, of course, is a resounding no.
Rather than treating the names as a magical incantation, the lecture distills several vital, transformative reasons for actually internalizing the Asma. It's about building a solid theology so we actually know God from His own words. But most importantly, it's about internalizing these names as moral codes to reflect divine behavior in our own human lives. For instance, if you understand God as the provider, you should actively strive to be generous to those around you. If God is the most merciful, we have to manifest actual, tangible mercy in our daily actions and how we treat people who make mistakes. Plus, internalizing these traits is exactly how we ensure our prayers are accepted, because we're aligning our very character with the divine attributes. The 99 names are meant to be actively lived out, not just passively memorized.
Section 4. Worship, Prayer, and Gaza, Taking Theology into the Real World. Now let's pivot and explore how this profound theology applies to the real, often painful human world around us. How does understanding God's names actually change how we act? The speaker notes that physical worship is deeply symbolic. Take prostration, or sajde, the act of placing our forehead on the ground in prayer. The explainer highlights that this isn't just a physical movement. It is a powerful, active surrender. You are literally taking the highest part of yourself, your intellect, your pride, your ego, and placing it onto the lowest point, the physical ground. It's the ultimate act of sacrificing the human ego before the divine, declaring that despite all of our human knowledge, we submit to something greater. Addressing real-world applications and deep tragedies, the speaker clarifies a really specific point of Islamic jurisprudence regarding the Qunut prayer. He clearly differentiates between two types of prayer here. First, there's the standard daily Vitir Qunut, performed before the bowing position, which is just part of regular worship. But then there's the Shan Qunut, which is performed after the bowing position. Now, this isn't an everyday practice. It is specifically invoked for extraordinary circumstances and intense collective crises, such as the deeply tragic events unfolding in Gaza. The very structure of the prayer literally changes to accommodate the weight and gravity of a collective emergency. Speaking of crises, the speaker recounts a deeply emotional morning prayer at the historic Sultanahmet Mosque, a prayer specifically dedicated to Gaza. Just think about this number for a second. 34,000. He describes an incredible, overwhelming turnout where the mosque completely filled up inside and an overflow of 34,000 people gathered outside. Picture standing in the freezing January cold, shivering, yet completely united in a shared mourning. To put that into perspective, that's enough people to fill a major sports arena. It's a really powerful testament to how faith, combined with raw human sorrow, can mobilize a massive community to stand in absolute solidarity. In another, more everyday practical application during a Q&A session, the speaker addresses household charity. And he strongly pushes back against the idea of strict financial control, where the household budget is viewed entirely as the husband's sole possession. Instead, he heavily advocates for shared autonomy. Based on historical examples in text, he affirms that women have the independent, unquestioned right to give charity, or infaq, from the shared family budget. This isn't just some abstract financial rule. It's a deeply empowering stance for women's moral autonomy and agency within the home, correcting a lot of modern cultural misconceptions.
Section 5. Balanced respect for the prophet, avoiding extremes in adoration.
In our final section, this explainer shifts to a very delicate and really important topic: how we should appropriately honor and respect the Prophet Muhammad. The lecture offers a sharp critique of a practice that has grown over centuries, the habit of attaching overly long, highly exaggerated, and almost mystical titles to the Prophet. The speaker describes this phenomenon brilliantly as a spiritual bribe. What a phrase, right? Think about it. As generations found it harder and harder to actually embody and follow the Prophet's difficult, patient, and charitable real-world example, they compensated. It became so much easier to just praise him with grand, empty titles than to actually wake up and live like him.
To back this up, the speaker points out that the prophet himself was the one constantly pushing back against this exact behavior. He was desperate to keep the focus on God, not himself. He urged his followers not to exaggerate his status to the point of divinity, referencing the historical trajectory of how other faiths elevated the Son of Mary. He firmly insisted on his humanity, emphasizing that strict monotheism must always be preserved. He is, first and foremost, the servant of God, and only then his messenger.
So, the speaker outlines a much more balanced, grounded approach to respect, structured in 3 easy steps. First, we must actively avoid extreme, excessive praise that borders on assigning him divine powers. Second, and think about how often we actually do this, we must reject using his name or specific prayers as a transactional spell to unlock worldly desires or solve our material problems. He's a guide, for sure, but not a genie. And third, we should address him with genuine, sincere warmth. Whether it's calling him Muhammad, the messenger of God, or our master, it should be done with natural affection that fits the context. We really need to replace rigid, overly formal theatrics with sincere warmth. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought to ponder today, and it really summarizes everything we've looked at in this explainer. Are we just decorating our words with long titles, or are we truly living out the profound truths of this theology? Whether it's understanding the 99 names, engaging in genuine prayer for those suffering, or showing sincere respect to the prophet, the ultimate goal isn't what we say, it's how we live. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring these deep questions.